With me today is Nealy Daryabegi, who is an attorney and had spent half of her time in Iran for a number of years. You were a resident of Iran?
I was born there, yeah. I lived there for about 15 years.
Why don't we take a look at what you dressed like when you were in Iran as opposed to what you look like now?
Sure.
Now, can you tell us what the purpose of the dress code is?
You have to cover basically your hair, your face, your hands. You can't have any makeup on, any nail polish on. Your full body has to be covered up unto your ankles. And the purpose is that if you're not married, or if you're not married to a man, and if he's not your father, your brother, or your uncle, he can't see you without the dress code, without the scarf and the overdress.
But what is it designed to prevent?
Basically, in Islam, it's considered the men can't control themselves, and a woman shouldn't do anything to tempt him. So basically, we have to cover ourselves to prevent them from getting tempted.
So greater responsibility is placed on the woman.
Exactly, because they think a man is just innocent and he can't control himself.
Now, can a woman be forced to marry in Iran?
A man can't force a woman to marry him. Her parents can. Let's say if her parents want her to marry a 40, 50-year-old man and she refuses, at that age you really don't have that much strength to go against your parents' wishes. And if she says yes, I'm not so sure at that age she even understands what she's agreeing to. In this country we consider that to be rape, and we don't even think a child that age has the capacity to consent. And what happens is once she does get married, and if he's physically abusive towards her or towards the kids, she can't ever get a divorce from him. And even if, let's say, he does let her go, he gets automatic custody of the children.
Regardless of how he may have treated the children or the wife during the marriage? Exactly.
Regardless. He gets automatic custody, and most mothers can't walk away from their children. So what they do is they just sit, in order to protect the kids, they stay in that marriage. And even in a good case scenario where he says you can go and you can take the kids with you, let's say she's 15, 16 years old. At that point, she's got 3, 4 kids because there's no birth control. She never finished elementary school, so where can she really go?
And let me just ask, when we had talked earlier, you said she may be one of multiple wives. It's permissible to have many wives in Iran.
You can have 4 wives. A man can have 4 wives. Which is for lifetime, what we consider a marriage to be. Anything after that is considered to be temporary marriages, where it's for a specific amount of time and a certain amount of money, but you can have as many as you want.
A man can have as many?
A man can have as many as he wants.
Because if a woman was to engage in an adulterous relationship, what would be the penalties for that?
She would get stoned to death. He would get fined, but a man really never needs to commit adultery because he can have a temporary marriage. So basically, it's just a monetary loss either way, if you look at it.
She would be stoned to death?
She would be stoned to death. If she does, and the thing is, if she's married and she can't ever divorce her husband, and she decides she wants to have an outside affair, she risks her life.
She also risks her life for violating the dress code.
The dress code is strictly enforced, and you really don't get jailed. You get physically punished, and there's different forms depending on what you did. It ranges from like throwing acid on your face. They could stand on the side of the street and throw acid on your face if you walk by.
You said that matter-of-factly, and you said that to me earlier when you said it, and it struck me as how barbaric.
It's very barbaric, but let me just say the other forms. Another thing they can do is they stand in every block in a bus. They have buses, and the guards stand in every block, and they just take people randomly in, if for any reason. And you could get either whipped on your hands 100 times on your back. There's putting you in containers of water with leeches in it, getting your fingers cut off, depending on what it is, and it changes all the time. One form gets popular over another every 3, 4 months. And they don't care if you're a child or if you're a pregnant woman or if you're an old lady. And most pregnant women can't survive under it. An example is what they do is they've separated the schools, the boys and the girls. And the hours are even different. From 7 to 2 is boys, and then from 8 to 3 is the girls' schools. And what they do around 3 o'clock is they they block out the whole street. They stand at the bottom of the street, and then they start walking up as we're going down, as the girls are going down, and then they start taking you in. You know, depending on whatever.
The dress code violation.
Well, yeah, the dress code violation. Even and one time, you know, you could have naturally, you could have like rosy cheeks, or you could have long eyelashes, and you haven't done anything. One time when we were walking out, a friend of mine, she was a beautiful girl. She had these big, like long curly eyelashes, and the guard just grabbed her, started pulling her eyelashes out. And during, you know, while he was doing it, he realized that they're real. And he was like, and then he started, you know, he just continued. He pulled the rest of them out. He said, you shouldn't even look this pretty because it just attracts so much attention. You shouldn't even have these eyelashes, and just pull them out. Or if, let's say, you have like rosy cheeks, they think you have makeup on, so you might get the acid thrown on your face, and you haven't even done anything.
This excerpt is brought to you by the Massachusetts School of Law, the leader of reform in legal education and a leader in multimedia education for the public. To view the full interview and for a full listing of MSL's programs, log on to mslaw.edu.